And that propulsion allows you to barrel in and pick up these big clumps of weeds and remove them safely. And then you have navigational waters and you don't have harmful chemicals.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your host, coming to you from the Lance Chuck Camper Mobile Podcast Studio, Master Captain Angie Scott.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast. I've got a special guest with me this week to talk about something that is super important for anybody out there, really anybody, but especially for those of us who have a passion for fishing and the outdoors. Tara Lordi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be on this.
Yeah, so we were talking just a little bit offline. You've been on several podcasts before, but you have a very important role that you play in conservation in the outdoors. So I want to get into all of that. Before we get into it, if you wouldn't mind just to give our audience a quick background on yourself, where you reside, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, absolutely. As we said, I grew up in the Hudson Valley, which is at the base of the Catskill Mountains, near the Adirondacks in New York. I was born and raised there, where you have beautiful rivers and mountains, and strapping canoes to the top of your car was quite normal. And I grew up there. I now reside in Florida, in South Florida, in West Palm. And believe me, the fishing is amazing here, but that's another story. So I grew up there and I saw that these beautiful lakes were being sprayed by contaminants. We call these herbicides. In trees, you call them pesticides, and in water, we call them herbicides. And I got really upset because I saw the back of the ingredients, and it had major components that are very dangerous, which cause cellular death. And they had things like copper sulfate. And that's really, really bad, right? So you're spraying these chemicals in the water, or you're dropping pellets in an effort to control weeds. And we as anglers all know that you need navigational waters, and you need to try to keep your props free and clear of any weeds. So they would spray this in an effort to kill the weeds, but the weeds would just die, sink to the bottom. And then you would have, after year, reduced levels of water. And that's really scary. And so, I'm a polo player and a show jumper, so I had moved down to West Palm because this is really the epicenter for the equestrian sport. Mm-hmm. I came down here and I met my husband, and we both decided we were going to build a company and construct a vessel that would allow people to clean the waterways without spraying. And we would make it so affordable that actually spraying would end up costing people more money. So you have to really you have to make sure the greed is gone, right? So you got to make sure you build something that people can afford. And then it's got to be functional, and more functional than spraying. So I got married. I came down to Florida. We started a company, and he passed on from cancer in 2019. But I kept the company going. So I've been running it as a CEO since 2016. And I am also an angler in the ocean, as well as building vessels for lakes. I fish almost every weekend. Frankly, I have to tell you, and we all should think about it, if you're in a lake and you're fishing and you bring in the fish, and even if you're catch and release, your skin absorbs what that fish has touched, ate, felt, right? So you hold the fish or you ingest the fish, you're going to suffer from what that fish has been, and what climate and what ecosystem that fish has been, swimming in. And if you've got 2 feet of dead decay from spraying, and that's where they're using their food chain, well, you don't really want to pull that out of the water. So I think that's, where, when you say water conservation, I think that's really the focus.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just pulled up photos of the vessel that you came up with, and I will definitely have to share a photo of that on the website for this episode so everybody can check it out.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about that. like coming up with that?
Yeah. So, when my husband was alive, he was, he had grown up in Australia. And so he was always, ocean going, and he helped devise this catamaran style vessel so that we could dissipate the weight of the front end loader and the sickle bar. And we devised a 12-foot vessel that actually can hold an operator to perform various waterway cleanup tools. We have various attachments. So if you're skimming duckweed, and it's more fine like sawdust, or if you're pulling out things like water chestnuts that really wreak havoc on your props, on your vessel, whatever it may be, we just have attachments, and you come in and you can pick up 500 pounds a minute. Wow. Which is really, really helpful. So if you have a beautiful lake or a home on a lake house, and you find that these weeds are circulating around your dock, or your marina, this is a perfect product. You might have somebody local that already has our vessel, or you can have a vessel of your own if you feel that you would like to get into that project. The boat itself is portable because we sell the boat with the trailer, and it's only about 1,800 pounds. So you can actually lift it off of a trailer and into a waterway if there's no put in.
Oh, wow.
So it's compact, modular, but very functional and extremely powerful. The propulsion for the vessel, I had devised our own proprietary propulsion. Mm-hmm. So there's props on the back, but the props actually have knives so they can cut through a lot of this thick mass of weeds.
Oh, wow.
And that is what the key is to making this so functional.
Yeah.
And that propulsion allows you to barrel in and pick up these big clumps of weeds and remove them safely. And then you have navigational waters and you don't have harmful chemicals.
Yeah. That's amazing. For me, so I live in Nashville currently, and my lake, thankfully, it doesn't have a whole lot of vegetation. It's more of a rocky lake, and I've been spending the last few winters down in Florida and getting, boating on more of those freshwater lakes down there. And, I'm always like so shocked at how many weeds there are in these lakes down there. And so I imagine that your product gets used quite a bit down there in Florida, I would think.
Oh, yeah. We're in actually 14 countries now.
Oh, wow.
Yep. We're very dominant in Florida. We're also very, very big in Texas. In the Northeast, of course, Philly, New Jersey, New York, a lot of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, big time. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's only going to get worse as the waters get warmer, and it's proven that our climate is heating up a bit. As the waters get warmer, it will only get worse. And I hate to tell you this, but it did start with people putting aquarium plants in the lakes in an effort to create a better food system for better fishing. Wow. So, a lot of these invasive weeds are caused by that. And some, the birds decide to take from one lake to another. It's not all the humans' fault, but they kind of started it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so water quality is a huge topic, I know, especially down there in Florida. So I know that's not the primary reason why you relocated there, but have you worked with any other organizations? Like I know Captains for Clean Water does a lot of work down there. Do you guys get into that as well?
Yeah, so I would say a little over a third of our client base is municipalities and the federal government. We're also on GSA, so we're a vendor for the government. So I've actually worked with FWC Florida in Florida, and I've worked with the Corps of Engineers. I've worked with government level authorities so they can see that we don't have bycatch, because it's a big thing. Hey, you come in with this big machine. Are you going to take the turtle? Are you going to, are you going to harm our alligators? Are you going to, and so they wanted to investigate us quite a bit. And to their surprise, I think we did 7 days on Lake Okeechobee, and one little dragonfly flew out of the little pile. So our bycatch is minimal. And I do work with organizations. I'm featured quite a bit on a lot of podcasts on different organizations so that they can tell their viewers and listeners that there is alternative ways. Don't spray. Think about what you're doing, and think about what happens over a course of 1 year, 2 year. People have this tendency to say, I don't see it, so it's not hurting us. And that's not what you want to do.
No.
You want to know what's going on under there. And you want to preserve the rights of the aquatic life. I mean, they can't read. So
right. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Super important for us to be responsible, regardless of if it directly affects you or not, because even if you don't think it directly affects you, it probably does in some way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know kind of a big issue, especially like down there in Florida, is a lot of these, communities are going in, builders are coming in and building all these condos and houses and things like that. And then they're bringing in non-native, plant life that they now, because it's not native, now they have to fertilize it and use all these chemicals to keep it happy. And, if we could just really push these, developers to bring in, to use native plants and things like that would really cut down on a lot of that stuff.
That's a super astute point. I have to tell you, way to go, because a lot of people actually don't realize that. Your point is so important. Putting in native plants, bulrush and things that do help create oxygen is absolutely imperative. But here's the thing. Sometimes you'll get the invasives without planting them because, like I said, sometimes the birds will bring their seeds. But what's important to really note while you're on the subject of the developers is especially here in Florida, in any given planned urban development, a PUD or a planned development, they'll put in a lake, just like you said. And not only will they put in a lake for aesthetics, but we use it to balance the water table. So there's, you have to put in lakes. Otherwise you'll drown your neighbors. So there's a reason why we put in lakes, and that's to balance out. So one neighbor doesn't get more, too much water while the other doesn't. And so we do this for a reason. But here's the other really scary side. This is a scary one. We put in pumps inside those lakes, and those lakes are what irrigates the people's backyard. So now you're being irrigated by a lake. So that's the back of your lawn, right? Or your garden, or where your child walks, or your dog's paths walk, by water that is being treated with herbicides. So not only is it in your lake, but it's actually in your backyard now, because that very water they're spraying is being sprayed on your grass to keep your grass and trees from dying.
Yeah.
So that's the super scary stuff. So now you've got copper sulfate embedded in these waters. They're spraying those waters, and now you're walking barefoot, or your baby's walking barefoot, or your dogs, or you've got your cute little garden out there, and it's like, there you go. That's really nice.
Yeah. Wow. So what would you say, somebody listening, what are some things that people can do to help this
Absolutely.
issue?
Yeah. So what you want to do is first find out from say, for example, you live in a homeowners association. The first thing you want to do is go to your HOA board, or if you live in a town where there's lakes, and find out, who owns it and how are they treating it. If they're treating with herbicides, you'll usually see it looks like burnt grass on the edges. That usually is a telltale that they're probably spraying. But you need to know who owns it and who's treating it. Then once you sort that out, you want to ask them to provide you with the label of the contents of what they're using, what concoction are they using to treat the lake. That, as a human being, as a normal layman, can do, right? That's your right. Then after you do that, you want to demand soil testing. And you want to grab soil in the lake's bottom, because we want to see what kind of contaminants are being built up. And from there, there's many labs. You can Google, lake soil testing labs. And, for a very small amount of money, I think it's like $10 or something, you can send the soil samples to those labs, and they can come back to you and provide you with the content of what's in there. And if you feel that that is something that is important to you, which it should be, then you as individuals can do that. And you can also gather up anybody you would like, and you're more than welcome to call me. My phone is always open for anybody that needs help or they need assistance in conveying the message to their community. My extension's 101. It's 561-204-5765 and extension 101. Or you can go to our website. You can email us. We're here to help. It is imperative that we as individuals look around and look at the nearby lake, look at the nearest waterway that's around you, and ask questions. Just stop and ask.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent advice. I'll put your number in the show notes as well. And what is the website that people can go to?
Yeah. Our website is www.weedooboats.com, and that's WeedooBoats.com. Weedooboats.com. 2 E's and 2 O's.
Awesome.
Yep.
Very good. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Are you guys on social media at all?
We are.
Okay.
Yes, we have Facebook, Twitter, we have Instagram, TikTok, all sorts of it, and all of our icons are at the site.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. All Weedoo boats. Yep.
Awesome. Anything else you want to share before we close out?
Yeah, I would like to give a shout out to all the women anglers, tight lines, and I want to say that if I had my druthers, I have stopped riding, so I've moved into trying to become an angler.
Awesome.
And I do go out there on the weekends. I bought a boat and I'm out there fishing, and I have to tell you that I wish I had a group or like a sorority group here in South Florida that I could call on to go fishing with other gals, because it would be really fun. And I definitely I would encourage somebody to send me some, shout out to say, go here and you'll find a bunch of gals that want to go fishing.
Yeah, well,
big boat, and I still run into a lot of stuff.
That's awesome. Well, what part of South Florida are you in?
I'm in Palm Beach. Yeah. So the Palm Beach Inlet.
Okay.
And in 10 minutes, you're at your first reef. And then the second reef is another 10 minutes. So we have a beautiful fishery here.
Awesome.
You don't have to travel far.
Very cool. Well, I spend most of my time in Southwest Florida, but and we will definitely keep you in the loop. So Debbie Hansen is a good friend of mine, and she hosts a Saturday morning radio show on ESPN Radio, Southwest Florida. And she is very well connected in the area, but in January we will be doing another women's meetup. We did one last January, this past one, where we all went out kayak fishing out of Pine Island, and it was a blast.
Wow.
Yeah. So
keep me in the loop.
Absolutely. And if you're able to make it to ICAST, which is in Orlando in July, I don't know if you have any connections, because that is an industry only show, but you are in the industry with your company, so but that's a great place to meet other female anglers, and we will be doing a meetup Wednesday evening of that event off-site. So great.
I'm there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you the information on that. We'd love to have you and get to meet you in person. And I really enjoyed hearing about what you do and the boat and everything. And so I can't wait for our listeners to find out about it and go check out the website.
Well, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you had me today. And the more we educate the public about what's going on, the better we're all going to be for generations to come.